Now let's go back to Dr. Simon Tsipis, a political science and international relations expert. And Dr. Tsipis, let's talk about how what happened in Russia could impact on its Middle East policy, especially when it comes to Syria and Iran, two theaters of a particular interest, certainly to Israel.
In my opinion, these consequences could be far-reaching, because in front of our eyes we see Russia and Vladimir Putin losing its reputation. And it will have an essential impact on Iran, on Hezbollah in Lebanon, on Assad's regime in Syria. And until today, Israel was keeping neutrality in this conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And once Israel sees that Vladimir Putin losing its reputation and it's no longer effective on having any influence on Iran, on Hezbollah, on Assad's regime in Syria, well, I think probably Israel will think that it must not keep neutrality no longer and might supply Ukraine with little weapons, and it might consider Russia as ineffective in far-reaching negotiations between Russia and Iran when Israel is looking for avoiding forward conflict between Israel and Iran. And if Russia will become unessential in this dispute, well, and it will totally lose its reputation, I think it will be also a game changing in the Middle East, because if Russia is going out of this game, we will have to reconsider our further moves without Russia.
All right, well, let me ask you about that, because as we mentioned earlier, the Ukrainian embassy chose today to make a scathing attack on the Israeli government for what it calls its neutrality, which he says basically favors Russia. Do you think, Israel, that in Jerusalem now they're really going to start thinking about that, especially, though, considering other factors, for example, the Jewish community in Russia, what's going on in Syria, etc.?
Well, Ukrainian embassy chose the right moment to press on Israel, because it is hinting to Israeli government that, look, Russia totally lost its reputation. There is nothing to consider no longer. Please supply us with lethal weapons, with tanks, with armor, with everything. So I think it was not a coincidence that the Ukrainian embassy actually began pressing Israeli officials on the ground of what is going on in Russia. Because yes, I think it is in favor of Ukraine what is going on in Moscow now, in Russia, and I think it will have a definite impact on the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. And we in Israel will have to reconsider and review our strategic further actions in the Middle East, while lowering the importance of Russia in the Middle East region.
And in the West, do you think, which has supported Ukraine, this could even perhaps up its support for it at this time, even supply it with some of even the weapons, even the aircraft it's been asking for?
Well, also it may act and reconsider as Israel will. So if we see that it was, in my opinion, it was very close to total discrediting of Russian government, of Russian President Vladimir Putin, of Ministry of Defense, and I think it was one of the goals of Wagner to discredit these institutions. And once we see that there was no, and probably there will be no reaction to punish Yevgeny Prigozhin, and we see that this will go unpunished, right. What he did, almost a military coup d'etat. So I think Israel and United States will reconsider its moves towards support of Ukraine in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict.
All right. Well, this could indeed have ended up being something of a turning point in that war in Ukraine, and maybe in the future of Russia itself. Dr. Simon Tsipis, thank you for joining us on I-24 News.
Thank you.
Well, let's move.